We've heard that it will be a Cassian Andor TV series for a while, but now we actually have a trailer for it, well, a main trailer. So let's break down this Rebel Spy thriller trailer and see if we can find out about this new show, as well as tell you the latest details you might not know. Greetings my young Padawans, and my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Star Wars Now. But before we jump into today's video, use the force and hit that subscribe and like button to never miss a video for myself and the team here at Star Wars Now. As always, if you're talking about Star Wars, then of course we want to hear about it. Okay, let's go. So starting off immediately with the trailer breakdown, we get this beautiful city shot with a person the subtitles calls a time grappler, which is such a Star Wars name for a bell ringer to be called. Instead of ringing a bell, he hits this metal object, I guess in order to say what time it is. But how the trailer utilised this to start the beat of the trailer, and then continues later in the trailer with other people hitting metal objects, is really well done to convey that sense of urgency. Almost as if time is running out. One thing that is very striking about this show is that it happens that Andor is using actual sets and not the AR wall, which has become prevalent in other Star Wars shows such as Mando, Boba Fett and Kenobi. The AR wall is a great piece of technology, but physical sets still have their place in TV production currently. Weirdly, the next shot looks to be some forest children with some throats singing in the background, and they're sort of watching a ship come crashing down. Part of me thinks this might be a look into Cassian's childhood, and that crashing ship is actually from the Clone Wars. We do know that Andor grew up on the planet of Fest, and joined an insurrectionist cell backed by the Confederacy of Independent Systems, aka the Separatists, during the Clone Wars against the Galactic Republic. However, even though we don't know what Fest looks like in canon, in Legends Fest was a much more snowy, mountainous planet, so either they've changed what Fest looks like in canon, or it's just a different planet. I think it's a different planet. This might be easy if the ship is crashing is identifiable, but it's quite far away and covered in smoke. It's hard to see whether this date in a ship can be from the Clone Wars or from the Galactic Empire era. However, the next shot is from a scrapyard planet, which very much reminds us of Bracca and the Scrapper Girl planet we see both in the Jedi Fallen Order and the Bad Batch. It might not be Bracca, but it certainly could be an interesting connection between series if it was. There is a red astromech-like droid travelling between the scrap, and this very much gives me prequel era vibes. The droid seems to have treads either side of it, but seems to be a new model we've not seen before. We do get a fantastic shot of an Imperial lab. What they might be working on is currently unknown, though considering we see Death Troopers later in the trailer escorting Imperial officers, this lab could be part of a Tarkin initiative, which was part of the Imperial Military Department Advanced Weapons Research, so perhaps a lab creating new weapons for the Empire. Though unfortunately we do not see the Tarkin initiative symbol on these lab technicians, so it might not be, as we usually see that symbol littered everywhere when the Tarkin initiative is involved. A small rebel cell is seen as they spot something and have to cover to run up their weapons. The same cell can be seen later in the trailer, so whether there's some main characters we may see, who knows. Though we do get a look inside a village or town, when the people are running and then ring a bell, presumably to warn everyone the Imperials are coming and hide anything that might be treasonous. But back on the Bracca-like scrap planet, we see some Imperial troop transports. Now these transports look very much like modified LAATs from the Clone Wars, or at least built by the same company. As these transports arrive, we see workers at this scrap planet, and I really like if these were from a Scrapper Guild, or the same guild that runs Bracca and the Jedi Fugitive Cal Kestis in part of Jedi Fallen Order. As the Imperials come in, people start to close up their shops and run for their homes, just as stormtroopers start marching down their streets. However, it doesn't just feature stormtroopers, but we're going to get some planetary security force operating one of this planet in the trailers. Their uniforms are this blue-grey colour with orange highlights, and they look very much like a local police force. Obviously not all planets would have access to stormtroopers, and some would have their local police force or even Imperial Army, who we also see later in the trailer connecting with Solo, a Star Wars story. We do see our boy, Cassian Andor, in the city as stormtroopers are patrolling. I do wonder what Cassian is doing here. He was a spy for the Rebellion, but he was also an assassin. We do know that from interviews about the series, we are going to be seeing a very different Cassian Andor in the show, as he only starts to warm up during the events of Rogue One. He was a child who grew up fighting the Republic, which turned into the Empire, so perhaps his plan to assassinate a high-ranking Imperial officer. That could be rather cool. And talking about high-ranking Imperial officers, we get a room with white Imperial uniform officers. Now, we have seen white Imperials before, and obviously Director Krennic, but also other officers of the Imperial Security Bureau, the ISB, like Colonel Wolf Yulon, who used to be Admiral Yulon and served Anakin Skywalker. However, I think this room is actually hosting the heads of the Commission of the Preservation of a New Order, otherwise known as Compnor, which was an Imperial agency responsible for promotion of the Galactic Empire's new ideology. Basically, it was a political tool for the dissemination of propaganda to say the Empire was great and all things were nice. aka you should believe what the Empire says. If this is true, the man in the middle will be Chairman Armand Isard, played by Anton Lesser, who was of course in Game of Thrones. While this bit of a trailer plays and we see the Imperial officers, we can hear Cassian say they're so proud of themselves. Yeah, the Imperials kind of are. They kind of have brought the galaxy heel and are benefiting from do so. Well done, Empire. Then again, we know it's not true. He does continue by saying, so fat and satisfied. And this sums up a lot of Imperial officers we see in Star Wars. They're incompetent and have only gotten away from they are to corruption. Obviously, this isn't the case of some Imperial officers like Tarkin, but for many Imperial officers it is true. It is interesting that while we hear this, we do see two Imperial officers drinking from their cups, maybe drinking caf, the Star Wars equivalent of coffee. The interesting thing is that the officer arrives in a more unique outfit, with black cuffs on his sleeves. I wonder what that means. We do get a great shot of a girl running through a town, perhaps away from stormtroopers who are coming. There's nothing too interesting to note here, but I'm sure with the context when we watch the show, it will be very interesting. However, the next thing we get are really interesting personally. We get a good look at Coruscant. The last time we saw Coruscant was in Rogue One, but only through the window of Galen Erso's apartment, and it makes sense for Andor, the spin-off of Rogue One, to also visit the iconic city planet because of this specific character. Of course, it further makes sense that one of the main characters of Andor is Senator Mon Mothma. As we know, Mothma would go on to create the Alliance to restore the Republic. We see a cool lift sort of taking to the heights of Coruscant's skyscrapers down to the lower levels, but probably only to the floor of the top level and not any lower to the underworld. We do see a female Imperial officer coming out of a Lambda-class shuttle and flanked by Death Troopers. If this Imperial is being escorted by Death Troopers, she must be working for the Tarkin Initiative. But back again to Coruscant, we hear Mon Mothma say, "They are everywhere," as the shuttle flies above the skyscrapers of Coruscant. "They're watching me even now," she says, alluding probably to Imperial Intelligence or ISB. Mothma was a part of a delegation of 2000 during the Republic era, where a group of senators were against Supreme Chancellor Sheev Palpatine's consolidation of executive power during the Clone Wars, and this is probably why the Imperials had the eye on her, as possibly a disruptive element to their new order, which we know she eventually does become by founding the Rebel Alliance. A nice scene which I cannot wait to see is Mothma's very luxurious party on Coruscant. I'm sure this scene will be juxtaposed with seeing Cassian's in, showing just how different the elites of the galaxy are living compared to those under the oppressive heel of the Stormtroopers and the Empire. The new character by Stellan Skarsgård appears in the trailer, looking out under what appears to be the same scrap planet we saw earlier. But look at this planet makes it more look industrial in nature compared to what we expect of a scrap planet like Bracca. He says soon enough these days will end, and is probably a leading figure in the early rebellion. Though since we've never seen him before, unlike Mothma, it's probably likely he dies in the series, probably to keep the dream of the rebellion alive. Just like the Imperial facility on Scarif, we see some very interesting Imperial structures in the ocean or lake. I believe this facility is a prison, perhaps for political opponents of the Empire or rebellious elements of the Empire deems a threat. A good prison escape episode seems like it's probably in the books for the show. We get to see what looks like numerous cells and then tubes connecting to this ocean structure. We see people in the same kind of uniform with the orange stripes. This uniform is very like the outfits we see near the beginning of the trailer, where they're working in a lab. I will see this prison, or perhaps a prison for lab technicians and scientists where they put to work for the good of the Empire, perhaps to make new weapons. That would make sense, especially if they're deemed political prisoners or science prisoners. There will be no rules going forward, says Stellan Skarsgård's character, and I think we'll see him, at least for the show, a very different kind of rebel than what Mon Mothma proposes. Basically, this new character will take the aspect of Saw Gerrera. Even though Saw is still alive, to have a new character that reads sort of how you don't pay the price, kind of rebel against the Empire would be good, and does what needs to be done. One of the police guard characters seems to have a hologram of perhaps a young Cassian Andor. Perhaps this could be a wanted poster for Cassian, and this character has some connection. The next shots of the trailer are actually visually stunning, with mostly just shots of the back of people's heads, the police officer is shown in front of a burning wreckage. Perhaps the speeder we see later on in the trailer. We do see Mon Mothma again in the Imperial Senate, and what was really nice about this scene is just looking at the Senate pods which have their lights on and which don't. I think this visualizes which senators actually still care about doing things for the good of the people in the Empire, and which just become senators to get rich off of people's suffering. But to see the return of a Senate chamber is exquisite, and I cannot wait to see more. A Tarkin Initiative officer we've seen previously is also shown going down the streets, and we see Imperial officers wearing the same outfit Han Solo wore in Solo in Mimbar. We then see an Imperial officer at an Imperial facility with TIE fighters flying overhead. The environment looks similar to the Rebel cell we saw walking around earlier in the trailer, so perhaps we're seeing an initiative sort of operation actually in action. People are standing up, a mysterious voice says, and we're not only seeing this another behind a shot of someone on a stormy planet of lights, but we also see someone with a pipe standing up to fight against clone troopers. Yes, you heard me right. We get Phase 2 Clone Troopers, in what possibly will be a flashback to either the Clone Wars, or just a flashback to after the Republic turned into the Galactic Empire. Someone jumps down onto a TIE fighter in what's a very beautiful shot, where everything is almost in silhouette against the blue-green of the planets. We will see a small shot of Cassian in some sort of ship, which looks slightly Imperial, but is very hard to tell. He might be going into hyperspace here, or some mysterious spatial anomaly. The mysterious voice we heard earlier in the trailer is played by the actress Fiona Shaw, who says, "That's what a reckoning sounds like." This is definitely leading us up to a full rebellion between the Rebel Alliance and the Empire. Who this character might be, we don't know, but we could have her acting as a more civilized rebel leader compared to Skarsgård's no rules barred kind of rebel. Okay, so that's the trailer for Star Wars Andor, and I have to say this Star Wars show is the most I'm looking forward to right now, and luckily for us, it is releasing on the 31st of August 2022 on Disney+, in all available locations that Disney Plus is currently accessible in around the world. But what did you think of this trailer? Let us know in the comment section below, because if you're talking about Star Wars, then we want to hear about it. But don't forget to hit that subscribe button to keep up to date with the latest Star Wars news, lore and more. You can also follow us on social media as well. But on that note, that's it for me today on Star Wars Now. I've been Captain Jack, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. May the Force be with you.